and I request Gayatri to proceed all the after all the part formalities are over. Thank you. Thank you. I'll take leave.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon to one and all present here. Am I audible?
Yes,
Manimekalai, ma'am?
madam.
Yeah, Neela.
Yes, Neela, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon to one and all present here. It's my privilege to welcome you all for this 1 month gender sensitization and capacity building program organized by Department of Women's Studies, Bharathidas University, Center for Women's Studies, and NSS of Kaveri College for Women in association with Regional Association for Women's Studies. Welcome you all. May I now request Dr. S. Shubha, Assistant Professor, Department of Women's Studies, Bharathidas University, to render welcome address and to introduce the resource person. Welcome you, ma'am. Shubha, ma'am, you are not audible, ma'am. Shubha, ma'am. Shubha, ma'am, you are not audible, ma'am. Participants, can you hear Shubha ma'am's voice?
No, madam.
Okay, okay. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
But she is on the line only.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
Dr.
Yes.
Neela, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible, ma'am.
So it is my great privilege. Okay, it is my great privilege to introduce Dr. Gayatri. She is more longer than associated with the Department of Women's Studies, and she is an activist. Moreover, she is a gender sensitized person, and her specialization in gender, particularly she had more experience in gender and migration, and she had participated lot of activities among with the migrant workers, textiles workers, and she had lot of experience, the observation from workers point of view, and she published a lot of journals, textbooks in textiles workers and migrant workers. Particularly, she found so many strategies and what are the policies to be adopted to overcome all the issues relating to textile workers, particularly those who are all working under wage grassroots levels and all. And she had contributed number of articles, a number of major research projects, particularly in Department of Women's Studies. And now she is working at Tamil Nadu Social Service Society in the level of a research officer. We feel very proud, and she got a very good alumni award from Bharathidas University in the year 2018-19, I believe. And she is a regular visitor of Department of Women's Studies, and she is actively participating as a resource person in capacity building, gender sensitization programs in schools, colleges, and she involved in menstrual hygiene management consortium program also. She has written a number of translation work to understand what is gender, what is sex, and how to sensitize the people towards the society at all spheres. So in that capacity, we feel very happy to welcome Dr. Gayatri to talk about gender analysis topic. On behalf of Department of Women's Studies, NSS, Kaveri College for Women, and Regional Association for Women's Studies, we feel very happy to introduce and welcome Dr. Gayatri. Now I hand over the session to Dr. Gayatri. Please welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Murthyeshwari, for your kind introduction. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible, ma'am.
Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, thank you. And thank you. Good afternoon to all the participants. It's a great opportunity for me to interact with you all in this afternoon. Today, we are going to reflect on gender analysis and its frameworks, particularly in the context of an organization or a policy or a program or any project. So it's for me, I'm going to share some of the information which I have directly experienced from the organizational point of view. So it's information sharing and collective reflection, and then if you need any clarity on that, I'll be open to share whatever I am aware of in this regard. So shall we move to the presentation?
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, yes, thank you. Is it available, the screen sharing? Everyone is getting the presentation on your screen?
No, ma'am, you have to present your screen, ma'am.
Not yet. You are
No.
just a minute. Just a minute.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it on? You are getting? Are you getting?
No, no, ma'am. No, ma'am. Are you using mobile or laptop for presentation, ma'am?
Laptop.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. In the laptop,
But for me,
you have to click in the present now option, ma'am.
yes, it's through me. For me, just
Yes, ma'am.
showing
Yes, ma'am. Now it's
now. Okay. Atanila? Hello.
no, ma'am. No, ma'am. Ma'am, you have to open the PPT, ma'am.
It's already in sharing now. I just
Shall I present my screen for you, ma'am?
okay. Thank you. Please.
Okay. Participant, kindly pin Dr. Neela's presentation in the participant list. Gayatri, ma'am, kindly pin my presentation, ma'am. Dr. M. Neela's presentation in the participant list, ma'am. To view the PPT. Is it visible now, ma'am?
For me. Is it
Yes,
visible?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Ah, yes. Yes.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
it is visible, ma'am.
As I explained before, it is part of my experience how the gender analysis methods used in different perspectives. Okay, we'll go to the presentation. Before go to the concept entirely to understand the concept, we'll have to understand the theoretical perspectives on women and changing scenario, because it is very important to understand the changing scenario, what is in theories and what is in reality. For example, women women's situation has changed from an undifferentiated population of women to the relationship between men and women. Before they were in common population, men and women are not differentiated. They are treated as a whole population in a common program. For example, when it was women in development, then changed to gender perspectives, which incorporates social relations, differentiation between women, men, between women. Not all women, not all men are equal. So first context is women in development to gender and development. It is very simple, related to GAD experience. And the second thing is from a single role of women as reproducers to the triple role of women. Before it was understood as a women as a reproducers, just reproducers, and now it has changed to the triple role of women, where they reproductive, productive, some in some communities, community management, and in some context, political management, that is management roles of women. So these are all the two changes from the perspectives of understanding the theoretical background of the women. Next slide. Professor Neela.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
Yes, ma'am.
thank you. And the practical, it is also, it has to be understood from the changing context of practical gender needs to strategic gender needs. Practical gender needs, it is the need arised from the contemporary, that is roles of women, where the strategic gender needs, it is understood from, and the roles arised from the context of the special and strategic needs of the women. And the next scenario, which is women seen as victims to women seen as actors and agents. So before, women in the domestic violence and the context of women affected by violence and abuse, they are just seen as victims. Nowadays, the women seen as actors and agents. The changing perspectives are coming. And from the program and policy and project perspective, top down, and even the research perspective also, top down to the bottom up perspective. So hypothesizing one issue and using women women as respondents, just listening to their voices. Now then we are treating them as equal participants in research areas, and even in projects, the concerns and issues and needs are really participatorily evolved from the bottom, and the needs and challenges are raised to the goal. And the last context which we have to really need to understand, the unit of analysis has changed from an emphasis on the individual women to even you can have it in one perspective, it is an individual woman, and another perspective, it is the household, where the breadwinner is a male, and the unit of analysis most of the time is the household. It has changed nowadays to socially, ethnically distinct groups of women and men and the relations between them. So it is the entire changing scenario which we need to understand, where we are going to reflect the gender analysis and gender sensitive indicators in this context. So next slide.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Today's reflection, from my point of view, it is covering the evolution of WID to GAD. It is a complete and overview, and then gender analysis and approaches. what are all the gender analysis. That gender analysis, it is a method. Gender analysis framework, it is a collection of tools to analyze the gender relationship between men and women. So what are all the gender approaches by the agencies, multilateral companies, and other UN bodies and NGOs and social action groups when referring the third world women, and then gender sensitive indicators in reference to poverty and power, and then approaching and contesting perspectives on women empowerment. So in this context, I would like to overview the WID to GAD evolution. You can also, the WID, particularly the changing approaches to WID illustrates the independence between, that is interdependence. I already explained gender analysis is a method. Even we reviewed the last two slides, it is the theoretical perspectives on women. So the changing approaches of WID illustrates the interdependence between theories and methods. So we are interrelating our theoretical perspectives to methodological approach. It is the exclusive thing we really need to understand. We all may know UN system has promoted gender issues through global summits, in gender policies, and gender training materials. This is one side. And the another side, from the movement perspective, the contribution of gender analysis, particularly the feminist researchers, for example, Naila Kabir and Mary Anderson, their contribution towards adoption of gender mainstreaming and women empowerment in international development cooperation by multilaterals, bilateral agencies, and NGOs played another set of context. So one side, it is a body promoting gender issues in policy summits and training materials and importance in areas of institutional setting. And the other side, the contribution of movement, particularly the feminist researchers on gender mainstreaming, in specific the adoption of gender mainstreaming and women empowerment in grounds of the women empowerment. So another scenario where the positive engagement of women gender equality, it is come from UN's 4th World Conference on Women in Beijing. You may all know about 1995 Beijing Conference adapted the Beijing Platform for Action with the global agreement that gender equality is the goal and mainstreaming gender equality is the strategy. So it is a very positive scenario which aims to focus gender equality issues at the center of broad policy decisions. Then only the international treaties, policies, conventions, all those becomes limelighted, and some of the institutional structures which get limelighted, and the resource allocations by the state, particularly the nation state, allocated some resources for the policy decisions and institutional structures in terms of mainstreaming gender equality, particularly the development in materializing the committed development goals and processes they have agreed at international and national level. So now let me explain the agencies' gender approaches, particularly UN bodies and multilateral and lateral company agencies' approaches towards gender analysis in reference to the third world women. It is very difficult to put it all in one slide, but I experimented. The next slide will show you the evolution of WID to GAD experience. Let us review it from left to right way to understand the changing phases of the approaches. So for example, the first row explicitly shows the welfareist approach, equity approach, poverty approach, and efficiency approach, and empowerment approach. This is the phases. Now we have the evolution happened. For origin, for example, it is the welfare from the welfareist approach. It is the earliest approach. You can see the phases how it has gone to the empowerment level. You can go through it when you are free, because it is a very big evolution. And the period of the next row, it is about the period when it is started. It is 1950 to 70, the welfareist approach, and 75 to 85, it is equity approach, and in 70s it is the anti-poverty approach, and post 90 it became efficiency. It is most popular now also. And empowerment context, it is during 1980s. Still it has a limited popularity because it is experimented by civil society organizations, some of the movements, independent self-sufficient movements which are experimenting. It is in it as different level, and the purpose is also explained here in clearly. Being women into the development as better mothers. First welfareist approach, it is a common approach, a scheme, project, or policy. It is common to both men and women. Here the women are treated as one of the beneficiary, and most probably with reference to the gender roles, they are treated as mothers. And in equity approach, to gain equity for women in the development process. So entire development process, there is an attempt to have an equity. And it is an anti-poverty phase, particularly after the feminization of labor and feminization of poverty. Most of the world population, women population in the third world countries, they experience poverty. So in that context, the poor are under the focus, particularly the poor women are under focus to increase their productivity. So this is an anti-poverty phase. And from the efficiency approach, to ensure development is more efficient and effective. So the entire development process is looked into in the efficiency point of view. In the empowerment context, the empowerment to empower women greater self-reliance. It is the important phase where women are seen as an agents, actors who can think for them, who can decide for them, who can operate for their own development and empowerment process. So these are all the purpose of this evolution. And needs of women met and roles recognized. The first thing is, it is about PGN. You may all know about the practical gender needs. And the second one is strategic gender needs. It is in anti-poverty phase, to meet PGN in productive role, to earn an income, participatory in small-scale income generating projects. So this phase concentrates on, particularly, as I said earlier, to elevate the feminization of poverty by addressing the women who are not having sufficient income. In that context, it was addressed. And in the efficiency approach, it is more on in the context of declining social services by relying on the three roles of women, particularly productive, reproductive, and community managed roles. In the context of empowerment phase, it is completely bottom-up mobilization, which is addressing the strategic gender needs through considering the triple role of women, both productive, reproductive, and community, and then the community political role of the women also. So, shall we go to the next slide?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now we finished the first phase with the GLAD evolution. Now we are going to see the second reflection of today's session. It is on gender analysis and approaches. In every policy, project, and program, the beginning is gender analysis. It is a practice that involves simply saying it is a collecting, analyzing sexual disaggregated data to understand the differences in the lives of men and women and their underlying causes to shape actions towards gender equality. It is a simple way, it is a method. Collecting and analyzing gender disaggregated, age disaggregated data, it is a method for an initial understanding. And it is an integral part of mainstreaming, but it has to be understood. The larger context is the gender mainstreaming. Gender analysis and approaches are the integral part of gender mainstreaming and standalone work. It is a very standalone work which need expertise, resources, tools, commitment, time, and all those things. So we'll see in later all those things. And what is the purpose of gender analysis? It is particularly to understand the mechanism underlying both dominant development problems and policies, programs, project interventions in terms of implications of women and men and for the relations between them. So this is already explained in the gender analysis definition itself. So it is a mechanism to understand the development problems, policies, programs, and interventions. Next slide.
Yes, ma'am.
So it is part of gender mainstreaming. Then what is the elements of gender mainstreaming? It has to be understood thoroughly. One is the element, the first element is clear policies, priorities of goals at various levels. For example, state level, national level, and international level, not only at the policy level and also at the intervention level also. It is the first element. And the second element, it is about the strategies and methods. Gender mainstreaming strategies and gender analysis methods. Number one, a reasonable level of gender analysis specific to an intervention. Very minimum, at least minimum reasonable level of gender analysis is required specific to the intervention. And one or more clear, if an organization or a project or a policy, it should have one or more clear goals relating to changes in gender equality. For example, before in MDGs, Millennium Development Goals, goal number 3 specifically talks about gender equality. Now in Sustainable Development Goals, 3 goals are directly related to gender equality. So it is an international framework. In a national policy or at a state policy, the entire development approach should concentrate minimum one or more clear goals relating to the changes in gender equality. And the third thing is some means of monitoring, reporting on the changes envisaged. It is very important because if you are setting goal and strategizing things, but not monitoring and reporting those things, it will not work out. So the mentoring, monitoring, and reporting on the changes in gender equality with the identifiable link to the intervention is very important to track the commitment of the state or the agency in this regard. And the third thing is, if we are, for example, we take the Sustainable Development Goals. The state is signed and the state is committed to the SDG changes, but the state agency, the state, only the state cannot do everything in a holistic manner. So dialogue between a development agency and its partners, stakeholders, particularly civil society organizations who are primarily engaged or secondarily engaged, or the key stakeholder has to be dialogued in this regard, sharing the goal, strategies, and mentoring, monitoring, reporting tools, all those things to be dialogued with the partners and CSOs. Next slide.
Yes, ma'am.
And continuation to the gender mainstreaming elements, as I shared about, the resources and capacity is very important, because the human resources, both internal and external to an organization or a state, it is not making optimal use of national, local gender expertise. It cannot be done through a development expertise. It is gender expertise who need to do all this gender analysis and approaches for the gender mainstreaming strategy. So it has to be, the human resources is very important, and the gender equality training for own and partner agency staff or the stakeholders who are involved in this task, particularly on gender issues, general issues on gender, including new topics such as masculinities, femininities, and the gender relations, roles and responsibilities, the division of labor, all those things sensitized in the gender equality to the partner agency and the state and the stakeholders involved in this mission. And the tools are very, very important. In this session, we are going to explore some of the tools, gender analytical frameworks, checklist, and handbooks. Because gender analysis frameworks, a collection of tools which is going to be used for a gender analysis. And then the last one is about stakeholder analysis. As I already shared earlier, the identification of actors, particularly whom we are going to focus: women, or children, or other beneficiaries, or trans women, or trans people, partner agencies, coordination officers, consultants, and all other people who are related to mission. Professor Neela, next.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Next slide.
Changed, ma'am.
In following the elements, things, institutional arrangements, if the state is committed to an international convention or state convention, then is promoting gender equality from the national to local level programs is important. For example, establishing gender leads, gender focal points, and the teams, and the expertise, and all those things has to be. It is all about institutional arrangement. It has to be created. Then we can monitor, mentor, report all those things. And then not last but not least, it is a sex disaggregated data and information. It is a very important thing for a gender analysis. We have to create sex disaggregated, age disaggregated data and information, which is paramount to assess change in gender equality. Then only we can track the changes what we are envisaging. What are gender analysis frameworks? As I said earlier, it's a collection of tools for gender analysis. Then when do we use them? From start to end. Very simply, from the identification, design, implementation, management, evaluation, and exit. So all require the gender analysis. We have to be very careful while applying and using them. Next slide.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. here it is a one frame. I just want to just give a overview of gender analytical frameworks. There are so many frameworks available. I just tried to list out some of them here, some important frameworks here. You can see it as framework, features and tools. For example, Harvard Analytical Framework, it is focusing on resource allocations for women and men. It can be analyzed using tools like activity profile, access and control profile to resources and benefits for women and men, and the tool particularly focusing on influencing. So this is the framework and the focus and tool. And the second one that is people-oriented planning.
1 minute.
Professor Neela?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. The next one is people-oriented planning. It is mostly used in the development organization, particularly working with people who are neglected. But it is an adaptation of the Harvard analytical framework for use in refugee situations. People-oriented planning. The tools used for refugee population profile and context analysis and activities analysis. And the Harvard tool number 2, use of resources analysis and an adoption of Harvard tool number 2, women's socio-political profile compared to men's. And the Moser framework, you all know, it is focusing on 3 concepts. It is the triple role: reproductive, productive, and community role, and mapping the gender roles identification, triple role, and gender needs assessment, and disaggregating control of resources and decision making. And then gender analysis, particularly focusing to determine the different impact development interventions have on women and men. If any UN agencies or international agencies or want to evaluate the impact of the development society, particularly women, men, household, and community. So the unit of analysis at 4 levels, and the analysis of 4 types of social and social-cultural factors. And the next thing is capabilities and vulnerabilities analysis framework. It mainly focuses on to help in planning and emergency, particularly in emergencies, and to meet immediate needs. For example, last year we encountered many disasters, cyclones, floods, and all those things. So in this context, capacity and vulnerabilities analysis framework is a key framework which used to categorize the capacities and vulnerabilities of women, children, and the additional dimensions of complex reality also. These are all the tools used. And women empowerment framework. It is Longway's women's empowerment framework. It particularly focuses equality sectors, but concentrates on
Ma'am, your voice is breaking, ma'am. Gayatri, ma'am, your voice is breaking, ma'am.
Is it okay now? Is it okay?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Is it okay?
Now it's okay, ma'am.
Thank you. Social relations approach is analysis existing gender inequalities in the distribution of resources.
Ma'am, it's breaking, ma'am.
Now voice breaking, ma'am.
Ma'am, your voice is breaking, ma'am.
Now is it okay, Neela?
No, ma'am,
Is
no,
it
ma'am.
okay?
No, ma'am, no, ma'am.
No. Okay. What I can do?
I think some network
My
issues.
network is okay. Yeah. Shall I proceed or shall I proceed?
Yes, ma'am, you can, ma'am. Now it's clear, ma'am.
Okay. No, okay. So this social relations approach is very important because the gender in existing, particularly it is focusing on analyzing the existing gender inequalities in the distribution of resources, responsibilities, and power. The tools used in this framework, it is framework for conceptualization, studying, and implementing empowerment. The sense inspired framework, ability to exercise choice, and resources, agencies, and achievements mapping tool. So these are all the overview of gender analysis framework, focusing issues and the tools which are used to analyze and map the situation. Next slide.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, it is one of the example for a project how the gender analysis is stepped. It is self-explanatory. Uh, First, it is a activity profile who does what, and access and control profile who has what, and analysis of factors and trends. What is the socioeconomic context, and program cycle analysis. What gender considerations are needed for the project? It is the steps of gender analysis, which is very elementary at the project level. If one organization has a project and if they are doing gender analysis for the project, it is the very elementary step which they need to concentrate. For the it is in this side it is explained in detail, which I left to the participants review. We can go to the next slide. Yeah, and this one is 4 domains of the framework related to the different arenas of social life. It is very important to understand. It is the 4 which domains are important in this framework. One is access to assets, and the another domain is practices and participation, and the another domain is beliefs and perceptions, and the 4th domain, it is institutions, laws, and policies, which I need in this framework. What one need to really understand: the access to assets, the first domain, includes information on gender relations that affect access to the resources necessary for a person to be a productive participants in communities and nations. Particularly, it includes the assets such as land, capital, and tools, and intangible assets such as knowledge, education, information, income, social networks, natural resources. So these are all the areas which is covered under this domain. The second domain particularly speaks about, captures the information on men and women's different roles, the timing and place where their activities occur, their capacity to participate in different types of socio-economic, political, and decision-making areas. This is the second, practices and participation thing, which covers um, mobility, decisions, expectations about appropriate behavior, influence, and that is access to opportunities and resources. And the third domain, it is about beliefs and perceptions. It draws from the cultural belief system or norms about what it means to be man and or woman in the specific society. So these beliefs particularly affect men and women's behavior, dress code, participation, and decision making capacity, and their access to education, services, and economic opportunities. These are all the areas which is covered under this. And the institutional laws and policies, this dimension, this domain focuses on information about men and women's different formal and informal rights and how they are dissimilarly affected by policies and rules governing institution, including many areas which we are going to explore. For example, health services, employment opportunities, education, and infrastructure, ownership and inheritance rights, like that. The central point, which is the power, pervades all domains. It exists in all domains. It informs who has and who can acquire and can expend the authority to acquire and expend assets. Particularly, it affects decisions over one's body and children. So, power is playing a vital role. Who has what? Who plays a decision role, and it determines an individual can take advantages of opportunities, can exercise rights, move about and associate with others, enter into legal contracts, and run for and hold office. So it is all about the power centric thing, which determines the resource allocation and all those capabilities, access to capabilities, assets, and all those things. Next slide. Yeah. Now we are going to see the myths and truths about gender analysis tools, methods, and frameworks. The most common myth is it is expensive and time consuming. It's relatively true. It is expensive and time consuming, but how far we are going to make them? We require a particular team of people having expertise on gender analysis methods, resources, commitment, time frame, and all those things. Need skills to do and interpret results. If we employ or if we have a proper institutional arrangements to address these things, time and resources will be saved. And the second myth, which is pick and go as they are. So any tool, method which is framed for another context, another social problem, which cannot be picked as it is for another problem. So the myth is it cannot be pick and go as they are. It must be adapted to the needs and the context, particularly reference to the geopolitical, geocultural context. It has to be adopted or reframed or enhanced. It has to be worked out. And what we are trying to do, we have to really analyze if it is an assessment, evaluation, or need analysis, or a livelihood based analysis, or climate change assessment, or is it disaster risk reduction program. It depends on what we are going to do. So it can be combined with each other's. One tool for exclusively using for one problem to analyze or map, it will not work out. So we have to really analyze the purpose objective of our requirement, and then we have to combine the tools which can serve better for our objective. So second thing is there. Third thing is enough for good gender work. Just it is what is done is enough. It cannot go like that. So just a gender analysis is just a start. They do not replace commitment and action, particularly if it is a state or if it is an agency, if it is an organization. The time, budget, resources, commitment, and action, and the entire process is very important. Particularly finance, expertise, the resources is also very important. Next slide. Yeah. This slide, I just want to explore the challenging stereotypes, assumptions made by the planners, particularly the policy level or by the organization level planners about the household. For example, it deals in three ways. First column about household, and second column the assumptions on the household, and the methodological challenges is in the third column. For example, when one project or policy is framed, the structure of low income households is assumed as a nuclear unit. But the methodological challenges, for example, in census and in NSSO service, a large scale services, in migration survey, the high proportion of other household structures, they are not considering the extended families, because most of the families are extended families, and women headed families particularly, where the single women, destitute women, and the women who lost their husbands, even the husband is alive, but the family is led by women. So those things are a methodological challenge when we collect data with this assumption that the structure of low income households is nuclear. And the second thing, which is the organization of tasks in the household. The most known assumption is the man is the breadwinner, the woman is the housewife. It is the most common assumption among the persons who are in the main stakeholders while executing program or data collection for projects or policy making. Here, the man is the breadwinner, it is the assumption. But the reality, women and men involved in different roles depending on the gender division of labor in the context. So every context, men and women involved in different roles. We have to really make sure that it has to be considered properly. Women in the assumption, the woman is housewife, but women played multiple roles: reproductive role, productive role, community managing role, community politics role. So these are all the roles played by women. For example, women are the primary accessors to the water resources, which is partly managed by the women players in rural setups. So community managing, women play a major role in Grama Sabha meetings and raising their voices and all those things. They are not all women, but women are starting to play their roles due to the advantages of having 33% reservation in the Panchayat Raj institutions, and not only as an elected representative, they themselves as a member of a Grama Sabha, they have their own political roles to be played in protecting commons, land and water resources, and even for their own issues like domestic violences and abuses, and they represent the standing committees and all those things. So this is the methodological challenge where we assume like women as housewives. And the third thing is the control of resources and decision making in the household. Most of the time, the assumption is men, women, children, and all the stakeholders have equal access to resources in the household. But which is not true. Often there is an unequal access to resources for different household members. They were limited, particularly women and children are having limited access to resources. And the second assumption is harmonious gender relations between the household. But it is not like so. Gender relations are conflicting. Sometimes they were dominated by the people who have patriarchal values, relations, power relations, all those things. And the third assumption is household is therefore treated as a unit. It is treated as a unit, but need for disaggregation of the household. So this entire table explicitly exposes the challenging stereotypes assumptions made by the planners about the household. Next slide. Yeah. Now we completed our second set of reflection for this day, and the third set, it is for action platform, how it can be done. All the gender analysis and gender frameworks, how it can be done with the positive hope that with the gender sensitive indicators. The previous table explicitly explores the importance of gender disaggregated data. So now in the gender sensitive indicators, disaggregating core human development indicators, I am just throwing some of the examples, available indices at UN level or some agency level, which is available already there, for disaggregating human development indicators. It is by sex and various gender related indices. For example, gender related development index. The following is the UNDP annual report includes the following indices, which can be referred by the participants individually. You can read so many things and understand so many dimensions there. Gender related development index, gender empowerment measure, gender inequality in education, economic activity, gender, work burden, time allocation, women's political participation. These are all the available disaggregated data at different agencies level. You can go read and explore the positive way of doing analysis and gender analysis using gender frameworks. Next slide. And as I shared earlier, work on gender informed poverty analysis particularly prompted the ongoing work to monitor the MDGs and now the SDGs. It conditioned our state, particularly the nation, to work on develop poverty reduction strategies, papers, reflections, attempts to exercise the SDG goals. So these are all some context where our state is exercising now in order to integrate the poverty diagnostic stage of the poverty reduction strategy is a step to generate data for all dimensions of poverty. One is opportunity level and capabilities level, security level and empowerment level. So these are all the steps where they can generate data or strategy, action, all these things to reduce poverty. It is all can be strategized to reduce the poverty. And study on gender dimensions of poverty and their measurement would help inform ongoing non-conclusive debate on the relationship between poverty and gender equality. So the gender dimension and the measurement definitely will help us to reflect on the ever-ending, non-ending, non-conclusive debate on the relationship between poverty and gender inequality. So it is the reflections I want to make through this slide. Next slide. Professor Neela? Thank you. So the record studies both at micro and macro level. The another challenge in gender sensitive indicators for the researchers in this area, particularly the development researchers, both at micro and macro level are difficult to undertake. because access to documentation of gender disaggregated data concepts is limited, very limited. The attempts are very few. Documentation of those very few attempts are rather even limited. So the reference point of view and micro macro level studies, record studies have this type of challenge. And the shifting policy approaches to bid reflect the contesting perspectives of what are gender relevant, gender sensitive, women specific interventions. So now there are many perspectives coming out, challenging what are all gender relevant, gender sensitive, and women specific interventions. So it is a positive scenario where we can reflect on it. When it comes to understanding power and power relations between men and women, the influential analysis are Naila Kabir and Joran Arts. So the people who are engaged in research domain, they can refer the work of Naila Kabir and Joran Arts. So they contributed very well in this area, particularly mapping the power and power relations between men and women. Next slide. It is just to understand the power domains, particularly in the context of empowerment. This is the work of Rollins, the different form of power in order to understand empowerment, particularly power over. It is a controlling power, which may be responded with with compliance, resistance, and manipulation. Power to, it is generative, that is productive power, which creates new possibilities and actions without domination. It is a power to structure. Power with a sense of whole being greater than the sum of the individuals. Power within, it is a very important in empowerment context. The spiritual strength and uniqueness, it is the basis of self-acceptance and self-respect, self-identity of women. And another three dimensions to explore empowerment. It is personal, completely the women's identity, acceptance, self-respect, decision making, all those things. And relational, the ability and decision making power of women when relating to the men, or ability decision making of the power of the women in household, referring other women in another household context. And collective, it is about the mobilization perspective, women coming together and having a collective strength to micro level lobby, macro level lobby, or some other actions. This is the collective references. Then next slide. It is the indicators of gender dimensions of poverty and their measurement. As I explained earlier, the dimensions of poverty, where we can go and get data, and what type of indicators can we explore. All those things listed here. Level 1 is at opportunity level and capabilities level, security level, and empowerment level. It is very important that opportunity level, the indicators are time budget and time poverty, and the employment and labor force participation, and the available capital and assets. The measurement, it can be through household surveys, focus group discussions, and direct observation, and household and labor market surveys, household surveys, records to credit and finance institutions. And the capabilities level, demographic indicators, particularly infant mortality rate, life expectancy rate, all other indicators related to health, sanitation, all those things. And education, health and nutrition, qualitative indicators of capabilities, particularly culture, freedom, and anatomy. The measurements are listed here. You can read through. And through security, it is the economic vulnerability and exposure to violence and social capital. Particularly in Assam, the national registration of NRC, citizenship. What is the vulnerability level of women and exposure to violence, the insecurity that they are facing? All those things can be captured through this measurement. So again, it is participatory rural appraisal techniques such as timelines and periods of stress, diaries, um, diaries of women, particularly women and children and the vulnerable sections of the community, focus groups, participant observations, case studies, and inter-household in transfer studies. In empowerment context, it is a political empowerment and control over household resources. For example, political empowerment, it is voting records, key informant interviews, participant observation, all those things. And control over household resources, it is household surveys, case studies, participant observation, key informant studies, focus group discussions, and all those things. So these are all the indicators and measurements related to gender dimensions of poverty. Next slide. Yeah, we have completed the third section of this session. Now we are proceeding to the fourth section, which is contesting perspectives. I am going to explain in 2 slides. First slide is contesting perspectives on gender mainstreaming. The second thing is contesting perspectives on women empowerment. So first we are going to review the arguments proposed by proponents of gender mainstreaming. So it is critical to effectively use the global goals and recommendations for action in development cooperation. It is the first perspective. And then it is important to improve the focus on legally binding commitments. For example, MDG, SDG, and the role of gender equality component in MDG, SDG, and the conventions like international conventions like CEDA. All those things, it is important to improve the focus on legally binding commitments. And the third perspective is, it is important to distinguish between general development problems and challenges specifically relating to the promotion of gender equality. So the special focus is needed, not only addressing general development problems, we have to really specifically looking into the promotion of gender equality. So in this context, what are all the areas where change is needed to the above 3 contesting perspectives? The following are the areas which need special attention. One is regularly updating gender equality policies, regular updation, and then institutional arrangements to execute the updated gender policies, and then sharpen policy dialogue and sector approaches, and then competence development of the personnel and stakeholders engaged in this mission, and updating methodologies and tools to mentor periodically to do that. And the next slide. It is about the arguments posed by the proponents of women empowerment. Here, in the context of women empowerment, a discussion on how to understand women's situation. It is very important. And women's empowerment is central in this discourse. In any discussion, the possible ways of women empowerment strategies is at the central point of discussion. The second perspective is the argument against gender mainstreaming is that gender mainstreaming is a policy adopted from above. It is at policy level. But progress in this matter will depend entirely on committed individuals, particularly resources, time, and all those things. So the action part depends on the people and stakeholder and the state who are engaged in this mission. So the second thing is particularly focusing on action point. And the gender agenda, third perspective is about gender agenda is often sidelined as a result of ambitious strategies with particular implications for women empowerment. Most of the time it is sidelined or given less importance because of the ambitious strategies. So it has to be very practical, approachable, with appropriate methods and tools, periodical monitoring, mentoring, all those things is needed. So all the above said perspectives, the discourse represents different theoretical political points of departure. Here, the structure and agency play an important role. Even policy is there and resources are there, the structure, institutional arrangements, and the agency play an important role in mainstreaming the women's empowerment process. Next slide. Yeah. Now I am going to end the presentation with the understanding of Kabir's conceptualization of empowerment. It has 3 levels. One is at deeper level, addresses the structural relations of class, caste, and gender. An intermediate level, it is about institutional rules and resources. And the immediate levels, it is about individual resources, agency, and achievement. Here, I'd like to share the experience of Kabir's work. Kabir takes example of the Egyptian researcher Kishore, who has used nations data, the Egyptian nations data, to explore the effects of direct and indirect measures of women empowerment, particularly focusing on 2 valued functioning achievements. In simply saying, one functional achievement is on infant survival rate and another achievement on infant immunization. For example, you may all know, since women have more primary responsibility in infant care and immunization, Kabir hypothesized that their empowerment is associated with positive achievement in terms of health and infant survival. So she hypothesized as the empowerment is associated with positive achievement, particularly in terms of health and infant survival. Next slide. She used this indicator, categories of composite indicators to measure empowerment. As I already shared in the above sharing, using composite indicators is important, very much important. This is for one example, the direct evidence of empowerment and the sources of empowerment and setting indicators. The second column exclusively expose variables with the greatest weight. And third is examples that are explored in her research. For example, it is direct evidence of empowerment. Variables used: devaluation of women, women's emancipation, reported sharing of roles and decision making, equality in marriage, financial autonomy. So the examples are listed here. And the sources of empowerment: participation in the modern sector, lifetime exposure to employment. And the setting indicators: family structure, amenable to empowerment, marital advantage, and traditional marriage. So these are all the variables with greatest weightage. And here, what she explored in her attempt is given as an example. It is the work of Naila Kabir's thing, which is very useful for the researchers to go read and internalize how the gender analysis frameworks and tools are used as composite indicators to measure the empowerment process of women. It is a secondary data review analysis. It is exercised by Naila Kabir. Yeah, next slide. In summary, gender analysis framework are useful sets of tools for gender analysis, essential to all gender equality practices, but they are just the start. We have to really allocate resources, time, our commitment, and all those things is very important. And continuous mentoring, monitoring, reporting with proper institutional preparedness or arrangements is also very important. And finally, the gender analysis framework and tools are political tools, since their aim is to help achieve fundamental changes in gender relations. And one more thing which is very important, it must be participatory and used flexibly and adapted to needs, resources, and circumstances, particularly in the context of the groups where we are going to exercise these. Thank you. So far, this is my experience with the projects and the interventions on gender analysis and frameworks. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your lucid presentation. It's highly informative. Participants, do you have any queries? There is one question in the chat box, ma'am. Shall I read that question, ma'am?
Yes, yes, Pa. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Our society really conduct equally? This is a question by Marudubandi sir, ma'am.
Pardon, repeat the question. Our society?
Hello, ma'am.
Professor Nila.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I can hear you, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Please repeat the question. I can't get it exactly.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Equally. That is, treat the people gender equally.
Your voice is breaking, Nila. Only I hear
now it's okay.
It's again breaking.
Okay.
Can I see the
okay,
chat box?
Can you see the chat box, ma'am?
I am going. Whom number of things are there? Can now it is okay?
Yes, ma'am. Shall I read the question, ma'am?
Yeah.
Yes. Our society really contact equally?
Please.
Yes, ma'am. This is a question by Marudubandi sir. Okay, ma'am. Next question, ma'am.
It is not okay.
Next question, ma'am. Ma'am, I want to ask about character assassination of a women.
Okay. In the context of what she wants to know about the character assassination. I couldn't get the question because
Gagandeep,
in
ma'am.
Marudubandi sir's question also.
Yeah, ma'am. It's already time.
Hello.
Ma'am, shall we wind up the session, ma'am? It's already crossed more than 1 hour, ma'am.
Okay.
Shall we wind up the session, ma'am? Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much, ma'am, for your informative session. May I now call upon Dr. S. Shubha, Assistant Professor, Department of Women's Studies, to propose the vote of thanks. Welcome you, ma'am. Shubha, ma'am. Shubha, ma'am, are you there? Am I audible?
Hello.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Welcome. Yes, ma'am. Welcome, ma'am.
On behalf of the organizer and the participants, I am very happy to thank Dr. Gayatri to share the whole components of gender analysis in depth and very detailed in manner. That is very especially the very basic the concept right from the concepts of gender analysis and why we need to do the gender analysis and the evolution and process of the various development approaches and the indicators, tools, and frameworks needed for doing the gender analysis and also how to do the gender analysis process with excellent examples in different settings of the various settings of the development projects and the women's problems and the development scenario. Thank you, Dr. Gayatri, to share the excellent in-depth manner of gender analysis process. Thank you.
Thank you, Shubha ma'am. Thank you, Gayatri ma'am. Thank you, Murugeshwari ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, Manimeghale ma'am. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Meet you all tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
you, Dr. Vanilla.
Ma'am?
Thank you, Gayatri.